Hello and welcome to the 2D RPG Kit 3.5 update and tutorial video. This update includes some major new features that I would like to demonstrate and explain how to use. So let's start with the first feature, which is the inclusion of a celebration screen after each battle. And for this, we can take a look into the UI. Let's activate the reward screen. You can see it has a slightly different layout now and an additional celebration box. And this box basically shows the slots of those characters that are participating in battle. And if we quickly activate the slots, you can see the layout that shows the usual information like level and experience points. Now let's see the celebration box in action. Just deactivate everything again and hit play. We can now trigger a battle with some random enemies and quickly defeat them and watch the reward screen appear. Here in the celebration box, we now shortly see the information of all battle characters, how they were before the battle, and after a few seconds the screen will update accordingly by adding the gained EXP from the battle. We can now see that in the case of the first and second character, we already almost reached level 2. So let's go into another battle. Again, defeat the enemy. And the celebration box again updates and now shows that these two characters have reached the next level. We have here a notification for the level up and also for the newly learned skill. And just to confirm, we can take a look at the game manager, and inside this party member, which represents the first character here, we can see under our skills that indeed this character now has those two skills available. Next, we can look at the new party managing system. If we open up the menu, we can now go down to the character slots here. In the main section, you can still see all characters that are participating in battle, but previously it was not possible to show more characters than that. But if you now have more than 3 characters active in your party, the characters that are not participating in battle will be shown here to the right. And here we can now start swapping the battle characters by simply highlighting a character and then change with another available character like so. It is also of course possible to swap out characters that are in the reserve with the battle character to let the reserve character also participate in battles, just like this. And with this new setup, let's trigger a battle. And you can now see that the new character setup is also working in battles. And confirming with the game manager, we can see that party member 1 is put into reserve and all other characters are activated instead. Next, I have reworked how dialogs are created. So let's take a look at an NPC from the scene. And in the dialog starter script, you can now see that the dialog itself is moved to a system that now uses scriptable objects in order to set up the actual spoken lines. The scriptable object itself will be placed here, and you can find all dialogues that come with the demo game here in the dialogs folder. And to set up a new dialog, you can simply right-click here and go to Create Dialog, and this will create a new dialog inside this folder. And for this demonstration, we can simply keep the default name, and inside this object, you can now find all the options to set up the actual dialog lines. You can define character portraits here as usual, and the spoken lines will be defined here. The closing message is for shopkeepers, for example, as a final message before leaving the shop interface. So in general, once you arrive here, the dialog setup is the same as before. So let's still test this one out by adding some lines here. And the name box of this dialog should say villager. And we don't need the character portrait, so let's just add 2 stars, as we don't have defined any portraits up here. And the line that should be set is, "Hello, I am a scriptable dialog." Now go to the NPC that has the dialog starter script, and under dialog add the newly created dialog. And that's already it. The new dialog is now set up and ready to be tested. So let's hit play, and interacting with this NPC, we can see the new dialog working as intended. We have the villager name box and the actual spoken lines here. Next, I want to show you that there is a new system that allows you to trigger dialogue during battles. And for this, we can take a look into the tutorial overworld map that we have created in one of our tutorial videos. Here we have already set up a visible enemy encounter with the bat, but battle dialogues in general also work the same way for random encounters. So let's go into the actual enemy prefab and open the bat prefab. Here inside the battle character script, you can now find HP events. Those allow you to set up a number of events based on the current enemy HP. And in this example, let's create one event that should be triggered when the enemy has 15 or less HP. You can also set up another event. For the second event, let's go with 10 HP. Now down here you can find the actual Unity events that trigger the dialog. Click the plus button here and we will have the first Unity event. Inside the event, click plus again to be able to set it up. Now let's add a dialog starter script to this object and set the box collider component to trigger. Next, in the dialog starter script, make it activate on awake. And now back to the Unity event. Simply drag the bat game object into this field here, and from the drop-down select the dialog starter script and bool enabled. Click this box here and also uncheck this box for the dialog starter to deactivate the dialog, and the Unity event will now be triggered when this enemy has 15 or less HP left. The Unity event itself will then be activated and the dialog starter script will also be activated. Now let's add the second HP event for 10 HP. Just add another Unity event here. This is now element 1 and it will be triggered according to the value set up in element 1 under the HP events. And for this, let's add a second dialog starter script and set it up the same way as the previous one. Now in the second Unity event, select the dialog starter script and again use the same function that will activate the script once the HP are at 10 or below. Now the last step is to create the actual dialog. As already shown, we go into the dialog folder and create a new dialog. Let's call it Battle Dialog 1. And here we set up the spoken lines again. The name box should be saying bat, and we don't display any character portraits. And for the demonstration purpose, the dialog should just say Battle Dialog 1. Now let's duplicate this dialog, and to be able to tell those two dialogs apart, let's also change the line to Battle Dialog 2. Now we just add these dialogs to our enemy as before with the NPC here in the dialog field. This is dialog 1. And this is dialog 2. One thing we still have to do is to set up the box collider properly. Just click here and resize the collider. Simply make it bigger so that the player character will definitely be inside the trigger during battles. Something like this will do. Now let's test it out. Again, hit play. And now let's approach this enemy. Just to be able to confirm everything, let's go to the battle manager and inspect the bad enemy. Under enemy position 1, we can see that the events have been set up correctly and that the current HP is 20. Now with the first hit, the enemy HP are reduced to 13, meaning that we have triggered the first dialogue, and when the dialogue is over, the battle will continue as usual. Now the second hit reduces the HP to 7, so that the second event is also triggered, showing the second dialogue of course. And now after this dialogue we can continue to defeat the enemy. So with the battle dialogues you have already seen how unity events work, and unity events are in general a great way of triggering functions from different scripts without the need of hard coding them into the actual script itself. And so for this purpose I also included unity events into various other components of the kit. For example, you can now find unity events inside the dialog starter script to be triggered once the player is inside the dialog trigger, and also another event for when the dialog has actually started. The battle area also now uses unity events. They will be triggered once a battle has started. The same now goes for the teleport components, where the player is transported to another scene and when the player also spawns inside the scene. The chests also use the unity events, and when a chest is opened, the event will be triggered. And finally, the event and quest object activators use the unity events when an activation has been triggered. So this concludes the 3.5 update and tutorial video. If you have any questions or anything is unclear, please simply drop a message here or over on the official 2D RPG Kit Discord server, where I try to respond to all your questions. You can find the link to the Discord server in the description of this video. So now, thanks for watching, and if you want to stay updated with the kit or future projects, please consider subscribing.